Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie, we're gonna look at the latest release notes of Sim Update number 13, which has released a few days ago. So again, it's the beta release. So initially on the 5th of September, I would say the releases were pretty limited, but it looks like they now extended the release notes. So first of all, the general bug fixes, memory and stability improvements, as well as several crashes have been fixed across the title. Almost looks like that this is, I would say, kind of common to put in because this is always in the release notes. But hey, let's see. And likely that's, I would say, has to do with also the performance issues reported by some of the beta testers, even, I would say, recommending Asobo to delay the update. So hopefully this one will be much better compared to the previous ones. Then if we look at the aircraft, there's a specific fix for the Aero Fodocci L39 Pipsqueak. They fixed the entering values by double clicking on the GNS screen, right? So the GNS screen allows you now to put it directly in. Then for the Airbus A310, it received also a lot of fixes. One of them, Captain Terrain Radar button tooltip inaccurately displays the current state of the feature. Localization not working for the HCE type. They're having a texture mask on the right engine, which was not working correctly. As well as the first officer's windshield wipers are active for a short while in the hangar when switching to or changing liveries. Well, never seen that, but hey, it should be there. Then release note testing and the A310 fuel burn and continuing doing polls now fixed. Kind of weird that they put this in between, so I'm not sure if they really fixed it. As well as the autopilot bank limit tooltip is reversed, right? So the autopilot bank limit prevents the aircraft from making sharp turns, and you can adjust it by using that button. Then the LOD two missing textures for both the Xbox as well as for the Microsoft Flight Simulator Aviator Club liveries. So those are also fixed, as well as the livery names are not localized in the liveries page. This really depends if you're hit by this issue, right? If you're using it in English, then you likely didn't face those issues, but maybe in the other languages. Then crashes to desktop, experienced by some of the users, also fixed, so they made some improvements to prevent that, as well as the wing rear and nav lights being too bright. They were too bright, they now reduced the brightness. The GPWS sounds being too quiet, that has now been fixed, they're now a little bit more louder, as well as the sound levels based on the community feedback have been increased at all. So not only the GPWS, but also some other sounds have been increased. Then both for Korean and Turkish, there are the fixes for the tooltips for the instrument as well as the hangar description. And there's a last one where it says neither language is localized in weight and balance option. So this is specifically for localized languages. The weight and balance option are now localized. Then for the Cessna Citation CD4, they fixed the passenger cabin lights not working. The Curtis GN4 Jenny unable to spawn with default or custom amount of view, as well as they made some color changes during transition from LOD4 to LOD5, as well as the checklist is now auto-completing during the evaluation mode. So it will auto-complete once you're there. Uh, the EFP, the radios, tune active instead of standby frequencies. So what they did is they tuned the standby frequencies instead of the active ones, as far as I understood, as well as the left and right quick views have now been fixed. Were some issues with the quick views, right, which you can use to quickly switch from one view to the other view. That has now been fixed. Localization one, the forward tank is now localized. It wasn't localized in neither languages, so it looks like that they faced that issue for multiple aircrafts, and that's being done as well as the hangar description is now there. The Douglas DC-3 also received some updates. The black textures can be seen inside the cockpit, as well as the open light seems found in cockpit. The beacon switch is not labeled, which makes it hard to identify, as well as the enhanced cockpit textures are backwards. So they were, say, kind of displayed weird, but it's now being fixed. As well as the overlapping words on the warnings inside the cabin and on the rear cabin door. Those I would say are likely, you'd say, livery fixes, which are now fixed, and the co-pilot yoke is tilted. Low resolution texture in the enhanced edition cockpit, right? It's only for the enhanced edition, keep that in mind, as well as the cockpit model nose rivets UV map stretch. The bed texture mapping on the APU card has now also been fixed. So Looks like a little bit more graphical things. There are some technical things for this aircraft, but mostly I would say graphical things which they have fixed for the DC-3. Then the Grumman G21, also a lot of fixes, right? So the control joke center section clips, fuel valves have no sound, manual fuel pump has no sound, so a lot of sound fixes, as well as a tooltip fix where they revised the main manual valve selector. Then the EFB screen flickering, right? So it was not continuously stable. That has been fixed also, as well as the localization fixes, which we saw for the other aircrafts, including the fuel tank value, which was also not localized. Then specifically for, let's say, this looks like Mexico, right? So Spanish Mexico, the flap pitot heater and the associated description is not localized in the checklist. Livery names and added a hangar description. So all of these, I would say, last items, all of these are localization fixes. So that's good to see that they also spend time on fixing those. Then the H4 Hercules, the Spruce Goose, all eight engines are now supported. That's good news. As well as the added and undercarriage has been added to in the hangar mode, right? If you're in the hangar, then there is a specific undercarriage because it's a tugboat, it's a floating aircraft, right? So it can't drive. So that's good. They added the tugboat, the water friction, the throttle transfer from pilot to engineer, as well as the throttle friction, which has been added, and then some localization issues and some, let's say, again, more some art issues, right? So you see a lot of art issues in this package as well as localization issues in this latest build uh, for the aircrafts. Then we're going to the world updates. As there's one for the Burj Khalifa, the Poi collision, which has been fixed, as well as one specific update for World Update number 3, which took place in UK and Ireland. They fixed the coastline displays, open seam near British Airways I360 in flight. That's good. For the update number 4, France and Benelux, they added a lot of fixes. So first of all, a lot of point fixes, right? You can see one here, light on point, or Canon, lighthouse, the Palais, the Justice in Brussels and in Antwerp, where they were missing some items, some collision points specifically, as well as the Allianz Riviera Poi, which has also been fixed. There's a castle which they fixed, Palais de Pape, which I fixed. The front city update causes terrain to cover the bottom part of the Stade de la Bourgeois, which has been fixed, as well as the Lac de Cap de Long has water covering waters on the bespoke model. So a lot of fixes, I'd say, to the boys, but also to some generic scenery, which was also colliding with the France city update. Then the world update number 5, the Nordics, the Viking station as our bank boy was missing. Collision on the side buildings, so mainly collision fixes, as well as the Guldwagen area arena. The boy doesn't appear until so relatively close, so pretty close. Uh, and also the field pitch LED pops constantly, right? So it pops up and then goes away, pops up and goes away. So those are, say, some minor fixes for the Nordics. Then Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. There was a specific fix for the Altenrhein St. Gallen Airport, Lima Sierra Zulu Romeo. There was a duplicate taxiway signs. Uh, World Update number 11 in Canada, the polygons water issues near Samuel de Champlain Bridge have been fixed, as well as the uh, entirety of the Regina Lake Straluta building is sunk a few feet into the ground, right? So it looks like the building was in the ground and they now lifted it up again. That's the beauty of, I would say, software, right, where you can easily fix those issues. And the vegetation can be seen clipping into the Pinawa Dam Provincial Heritage Park. Boy, that's also been fixed. So 3 fixes for World Update number 11. Then World Update number 14, which was taken place in Central Eastern Europe and was the latest World Update which was released. So, first of all, several buildings at the Brufonitz castle are partially buried under the terrain. That's not being fixed, right? So they lifted the buildings, as well as the fountain floating above the ground near the Little Michel castle. Dam buildings are being clipped into the Estergom Basilica. Boy, and a lot of other poi fixes, right? So I won't go through them all because it's a pretty long list. So it looks like that they perform some name fixes, right? Where you can see here some name fixes over here, also some texture fixes, but mainly I would say pois which were missing either collision points or were floating above the ground, or were I would say below the ground, and some vegetation clipping which has now been fixed for World Update number 14. Going to the last item, the Game of the Year edition, the Leipzig Owl Airport received two updates. First of all, the jetways do not line up properly with the terminal building, as well as the missing all arrivals and departures. And that's really important if you want to fly, right? So that's pretty good. So a lot of fixes again. Didn't test it myself out yet, but looking at this, it looks like that they took these feedback serious and they made some enhancements. Uh, the other observation is that there are no fixes anymore for the Boeings, right? The other two Boeings, as well as the other aircrafts. So it looks like that they changed the focus a bit to the other aircrafts, which were released later, right? Or either as add-on or as a paid add-on. And they also fixed some things in there, so that's good to see. So you can see that the feedback is taken seriously. So pretty cool. So with this, at the end of this video where we looked at the latest release notes of Sim Update number 13, which is being released in a few weeks, I think. So that's good. Um, Hopefully they are fixing out those small issues which are, let's say, causing I would say a lot of frustration. But most important, hopefully the performance is back where it was before the previous beta build, because I'd say then the performance did went down a bit. Again, here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.